We now move on to 1 John chapter 2 verses 15 and 16, where John writes, "Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes and the pride of life, is not from the Father, but is from the world." So John makes a statement here that if we love the world, then the love of the Father is not in us. And not just the world, but as he says, the things that are in the world. And John then gives us three categories that are things that are in the world. And these are given in verse 16. The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. And as John says, these can be reduced to one overall. That is, as we will see in verse 17, the lust of the world. But for now, we look at them as three categories. So we are commanded not to love the world. And verse 16 explains the nature of the world. That love for the world is completely incompatible with love for the Father. So when we talk about the world here, well, what does it mean? What does it entail? Well, the world is an order of things very thoroughly complete in itself. It is self-contained and self-developing. As John says, all that is in the world is of the world. So nothing outside the world is allowed to enter into it and remain separate or the same. The world accommodates and assimilates into itself anything that intrudes upon it. So I'll say that again. The world accommodates and assimilates into itself anything that intrudes upon it. So nothing outside the world is allowed to enter into it and remain the same. The world will assimilate it into itself. So what is the world? Well, the world is fallen human nature acting itself out in the human family. So it's moulding and fashioning the framework of human society in accordance with its own tendencies. It is fallen human nature making the ongoings of human thought, feeling and action its own. Remember, it will assimilate into itself. It is the reign or kingdom of the carnal mind, which is enmity against God and is not subject to the law of God, neither can it be. So wherever the mind prevails, there is the world. So the things that are in the world correspond in character to the world itself. The love, therefore, of any of them is equivalent to the love of the world. So the things that are in the world correspond in character to the world itself. So when we talk about the world, that's really what we mean. We're not talking about sort of what makes up the world as the physicalities. It's really the human beings and what they make of the world in their fallen state. So now as Christians, well, we may seem to be, and even may suppose that we are, separated from the world now. We know that we are no longer part and parcel of the darkness that we were once in. We are now walking in the light, and it is easy for us to no longer live in those obvious ways that we were so obviously are against what we now believe. It's obvious to know that what life lived in darkness looks like, and therefore we seek no longer to live that way. That worldly way that so goes against our new life with God. Because we know that God has given us a new heart, a new mind. The way that we think now is completely different from the way that the world thinks. Fallen mankind. And so we see the great difference between what we once were and what we are now. And we no longer have anything to do with that worldly life, the things of the world, the carnal stuff. And we would say that we no longer love the world. The world, I would say, no longer has a hold on me. But I think you possibly could tell that there was a but coming, that the things that are in the world, when they view them in a bit more detail and really look at them, may have attractions for me still. I may love them, or some of them, or even just one of them. And if so, even just loving one of those things of the world, it is the same thing to me as if I love the world itself in the whole. For the love of what is in the world is really the love of the world. And that is why we need, and what John does is break up the general idea of the world into its contents, which are the things that are in the world. Because it's very easy, isn't it, for us to say, well, yeah, I'm no longer of the world. I no longer go the way of the world. But when we look into detail, that's what John's going to do now, then actually we find that, yeah, maybe it's not quite as clear-cut as what we once thought. So the things that are in the world which may attract my love as distinct objects of desire, even when I say I no longer love the world, are too multiple to be numbered. But as John does, they may be classified, if not according to their own properties or qualities, at any rate according to the inward dispositions to which they appeal. And so what, but really what John does is he classifies them under three headings. And so as he says, all that is in the world is, and can be seen as, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. And so therefore what we're going to do is we're going to look at these categories over the next few days. But for now, take care and God bless.